Pere School Board Member tonight accuses a fellow board member of verbal harassment and being a bully.
The situation has been ongoing, but apparently exploded during a disagreement that you had during a closed session last month. New intent. Jason Zimmerman is at tonight's meeting, which just ended. He's live in the newsroom now with the details. Jason.
Bill, Pere School Board Member Brittany Cartwright broke down in tears tonight while describing the tension between herself and Board President Adam Clayton, which she says has been going on for a couple of years now. Cartwright even called on the board to censure Clayton, placing the item on the agenda, saying she's tried to work it out with him privately to no avail, and has asked the district superintendent to step in. Since the alleged dispute took place in closed session, no one can reveal what specifically was said, but all board members who were present agreed the conversation was heated, but only one backed up Cartwright's account that Clayton crossed the line in being a bully. Here's how they each addressed the matter when given a chance to speak out tonight.
He is continuously argumentative, he belittles me, uses disrespectful body language such as eye rolling, shaking of his head, and tapping while I speak, which is not respectful treatment for any board member and least of all expected by our president.
I am a human and I am allowed to have emotions, facial expressions, and be able to respond to things as they happen. To assert that that goes to something as such as bullying or such an extreme alleged personal attack is simply wrong.
The board did not vote to censure Clayton tonight, but another board member suggested the superintendent bring in a third-party mediation counselor to work with Clayton and Cartwright to resolve the situation. Further discussion is expected at a future meeting. Cammie, back to you.